Okay, that's it.
No, we're live. We're
We are
live.
live. So,
Well, here we are. It's Memorial Day weekend, and we're still in shelter in place. The restaurants are still closed, and this is having a huge impact on all kinds of artisan food producers, and certainly nowhere more than in the cheese industry. And we have a special guest that we're very excited about today. Sue Conley is a cheesemaker. Who better to talk about this situation? Sue is the co-founder of Cowgirl Creamery, as well as Tamales Bay Foods, which is a cheese distributor
right.
for cheesemakers all over the country and from Europe as well. So, welcome, Sue. Thank you for joining us
Yeah,
today. We're
welcome. This is fantastic.
proud of you. I
Good to
see
see
two
both.
of you right now. Oh, there we go.
So,
So, let me ask you first, how is your business faring? How is Cowgirl doing, and what kind of drastic changes have you had to do to get through this?
We have three parts of our business, and our managing director, Amanda Parker, is going to talk about our retail
great.
business next week. So
Yep.
I'm not going to talk about that too much. The other two divisions are distribution and production. So recently we built a new cheese plant that
Wow.
is still honoring the artisan methods, but we were able to build more aging rooms, and we're able to produce more cheese. So we have now a national distribution.
Wow.
We also have our own distribution arm, so we deliver to about 700 accounts
Oh,
in the
yeah.
Bay Area.
Oh, great.
And most of those are either restaurants or wineries and
Oh, yeah.
specialty cheese shops. So we really had to jump through some hoops to get that
Yep.
going again. Our staff has been very, very brave and very hardworking, and we haven't had to lay anyone off except
Really?
in retail.
Right.
Retail is a disaster.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And
So,
how much of that business is retail?
well, for our own retail shops, it's about 20%.
Wow.
And then for our distribution to other retail shops, it's about 30%. So it's a big number.
Right, right.
But what happened is we already have an online service that's mostly for gifts.
Yeah.
But we've been selling as many collections of artisan cheese online as we do during the busy holiday weeks.
Wow, great.
And
So
that's
great.
kept up. Yeah,
That's really good.
been a savior.
And
Have you had to scale back production at all? I mean, I assume you're not making as much as you were before.
You know, we were going full force, and we had to slow down. And we have not contracts but agreements with two dairies, Strauss Family Creamery and Bivalve Dairy. And when we slow down, they are impacted.
right.
The animals, the workers, everyone. So we're really trying to keep production up. The Strauss Dairy has kept their volume up because most of their sales of milk and butter and yogurt are through retail outlets that are selling more than they usually do.
Right.
So they've been pretty solid, and they've been just great partners for us. And they go with our flow. If we
Wow.
don't think we're going to sell so much next month, they reduce our volume. So if
Right.
we had our own animals, You can't do that. So when you talk about the cheesemakers who have their own animals, they are really scrambling right now.
So
I understand Strauss is doing a lot of, they're donating a lot of milk to food banks, aren't they? Or food distribution centers that are taking care of people, which is a nice way for them to use the milk.
Yes, they're doing that. Many of the dairies and producers, cheesemakers are doing that. We're doing it. It's just what you do, right?
So you've seen how in France they are asking the people to eat more cheese, right?
Oh yeah, I think that's a good message. Yeah.
Yeah. Eat your cheese. In Belgium, it's the fries because they have too many potatoes.
Right.
Maybe in Italy, it's the wine. Drink your wine. Drink your
wine. Drink your wine.
So the one of the key point is here also is as we can see that most of the people that have been sick are because they were not very healthy. So now people agree on that. Everybody is agreed that a poor immune system is basically base for a lot of the problem that we have. Cheese is an amazing food. All this natural food. Cheese is fermented. There's beautiful bacteria. And I was talking to Sue earlier, and the biggest danger now is over sanitation, because if you start sanitizing everything, you lose your bacteria and your viruses that are protecting you. You live with a bunch of people in there that are here for you. You cannot kill them. And cheese is another way to ferment and use those bacteria. This is really important.
Well, hasn't that been an ongoing battle?
It's a real conflict because you need to be very clean and hygienic. We're certified organic, so the detergents we use are less harsh than, the bad guys.
Right.
But that helps. But still, it's like organic agriculture. You want to keep all of the microbes and bacteria in the soil.
Exactly.
And not kill it because you have a problem with a pest. So, there's similar philosophies in our cheese room, but during this time, we are on high alert and sanitizing and cleaning.
There's no choice now. Those are the new regulations. Those are the codes, the health code, all this stuff. My thing is, at home you have to be careful, and you have to separate that whole craziness from what happened. You need those bacteria. You need to be careful. If you lose your microbiome, people know how important that is. But it's not just bacteria. There's viruses in there, and those guys, they are here for you. They are like watching. They are. That's why you don't die. It's all these people, they're just watching, and it's bacteria, viruses, and maybe a little bit of you, but that's it.
Well, and this has been a big conflict between artisan cheesemakers and the government for decades about the whole idea of using raw milk, and the government just doesn't like the idea of raw milk at all. They see it as potentially very dangerous. Even though most of the problems we've ever had with cheese have come from pasteurized cheeses, right? Raw milk. People that use raw milk handle it extremely carefully, and it's got valuable stuff in it.
I gave raw milk to my boy since he's 2 years old, and he's very fine. Beautiful milk.
How old is he now?
14. He's like 14. Yeah, 2.5, and it's been 10 years. I don't get it.
So the American Cheese Society has done a lot to educate the FDA.
Yeah.
In artisan cheese making, and my business partner Peggy was the president for many years and on the board there, and really set a nice mood to be able to talk to these people. We have to deal with them,
right?
And so they need to learn about what we do. So I think huge strides have been made in the last 5 years in communication. Yes, we have a ways to go, but the pandemic doesn't help. It really
Right.
It really,
Right. There was a point where they started to remove the wood barrel or something like 10 years ago, and they realized that switching to steel actually does the milk wrong.
mm,
And the funny thing is, when you want to make an experiment, if you want to understand, you can leave some pasteurized milk and some raw milk outside on the counter, and every day you come back to that. And after a while, that raw milk will become something else. It will live as the pasteurized milk is petrified. It's disgusting. It cannot go
it's
any
sour.
further.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we use pasteurized milk in our cheese.
Right.
You have to, no?
Well,
But-
yeah, but we also think that you can make a great cheese from pasteurized milk.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
we stand with that. And the
Well,
people who work with raw milk are under a lot more scrutiny than we are because the FDA doesn't know how to measure the safety, and they think pasteurization is the only measurement for that. So here we are.
There are different ways of pasteurizing milk too, aren't there?
Yeah.
Ways that they do it in the big industrial firms where they just kill virtually everything in there. And then there's ways of doing it where you don't necessarily kill off every living thing in the milk.
That's right.
Yeah. So the milk that age naturally is again from the bacteria that makes us strong. It's an ecosystem. We're all together. The same one goes to the, it's like it's an ecosystem. We are all connected from that. So anyway, and the cheese is the perfect example of how. Oh yeah,
For
the
anyone,
cheese.
this is a wonderful little book
You know,
written by Catherine Donnelly, who's been
Oh,
a real warrior for the artisan cheese movement in America. This is a
yes.
this is a galley copy. It's not an official copy, so I'm assuming it's in bookstores now. But it's she really does a great job because she's a scientist, because she understands the whole science of it, and she explains it extremely well,
right.
better than I ever could. That's for sure.
Yeah, she's a great advocate.
Are we in danger of losing some cheese companies through this? I mean, are there people that just aren't? I mean, I know there are restaurants that just aren't going to make it.
Yes. Cheesemakers who are dependent on restaurant sales, and I'm not
Right.
going to name, but
No.
there's, I think companies like Point Reyes Farmstead, they will be fine. And they even made a statement after they asked everyone to please buy more cheese.
Yeah.
They made a statement that they're going to be okay because
Great.
they have a big enough company. And I think that what's in danger is the very small artisan cheesemaker that's selling direct to restaurants and tasting rooms. Our distribution company works with many of them, and so we're doing our best to pump up their sales. We have collections online that include those small cheesemakers, but it's going to be hard for them to. I think this change in how people buy and eat food is going to be 2 or 3 years in leveling out, don't you, Jim? I mean,
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't know.
I think a lot of people are just going to discover the joys of preparing their own food at home. People have gotten. I mean, a lot of people. We're in an ivory tower here in the Bay Area where a lot of people do cook, go to farmers markets and they buy ingredients. But I think across the country, people are going to learn that, hey, cooking dinner is cheaper than going out, and it's fun, and you can control your food better. And
what I see on my side though is people are
maybe
people are tired of cooking because I can see the order growing. People are tired of cooking, and they're done. They tried, it was fun, they loved it, but I think that it's tough to cook every. I mean, it's you have to have done it for. You can't just do the same thing over and over. I want to talk about something that we were discussing with James a while back, like about cheese and vinegars and stuff like that. And James, the comment that you had about this client who said that vinegar is bad. And you said,
Yeah.
yes, that is why we sell it. It
Yeah.
is bad. Just like cheese. So the word bad needs to
Somebody
be,
brought back a bottle of vinegar once, and they said this balsamic vinegar has gone bad. And Giorgio DeLuca was standing there, and he goes, "What are you talking about? It was already bad." That's
Starts
the
out
point.
bad.
did it become more bad? I mean,
People used to bring cheeses back occasionally too, and they'd say, "This cheese is just not good." And we'd open it and we'd smell it and we'd say, "Well, we'll be glad to take it back if you really don't want it, but I assure you, this is what it's supposed to be." And
no,
it's
it's tricky because so this is what is bad. Like really, what is actually super good.
well,
And I think but that's why we need our cheesemongers and our,
right,
sommeliers and people who are real experts who can guide us
Yeah.
to
right.
what we're looking for.
But right
Um,
now, there's a lot of people, a lot of scientists and PhD in microbiology, in biochemistry, which is very good because PhD, at least one thing for sure, they have a sense of how to do research. So I'm inclined to trust a little more because they've worked very hard on doing research and a lot of things on cheese. Cheese is absolutely fabulous. There's so many things in there. It's just incredible.
mm.
Milk is not very good to drink. I don't think milk is great for adult, but as a cheese, like James, we say, eat your cheese, eat your milk.
Eat your milk,
It's
yeah.
super important. It provides so many nutrients, and for kids, it's fantastic. There's so many important nutrients, crucial stuff in high density.
Well, I also think experience is key. Yes, you're right. People with scientific degrees are great to have around and part of this discussion. But I also think experience is really key, and that's why when people say, "Well, I want to learn more about cheese," or "I want to eat better cheese," I
No, you
say,
can't.
find a good cheesemonger. Find somebody that you trust that's going to help you, that can guide you in terms of flavor, in terms of what to do with the cheese, how to serve the cheese,
You mean
because these are
Safeway,
people
Costco,
working with cheese
Costco?
for years. Huh?
You mean Costco?
Yeah, yeah.
How
I
many
heard Costco
how
cheese.
many pieces
I
is out
don't
of
know.
20 pound I can how many sandwiches can I make out of 20 pound of cheese? So
You don't need too much if it's delicious. If it's a
Right,
good,
exactly.
you only need an ounce, so you can make quite a few.
yeah, right. Oh my god.
Drew, is anything open over at the Ferry Building?
You know, we're open for a few hours each day, and the other shops, I think Miette's open.
Oh yeah.
Others are slowly coming in, and we are having meetings with the other tenants because Hog Island and Slanted Doors, they want to open, but it's so tricky,
Right.
to try to get people through there safely. So I'm hoping that the ferry building will add seating on the waterfront that can be shared, because I think the answer is probably that we need to go outside.
Well, they're talking about that in Berkeley. They're talking about closing off streets so that some of the restaurants can expand out into the street, which I think is a great idea.
Great idea in the summer. Yeah. So
Well, they can look at about the cheese board and have everybody eat on the median strip on the grass.
yeah,
Yeah, they
where it
do it.
says
Might as well make it official.
where it
That's
says
the
keep where it says
tradition of
keep off
Berkeley.
keep off median.
The
But
funniest thing to me is that the cheese board is not open. I mean, if there was ever a business, the pizza side of their business is
Right.
mostly
yeah,
takeaway anyway.
I
But
know.
they're a cooperative, so 30 or 50 people have to agree before they do anything. So it's too bad.
so I am working on a issue in Point Reyes. There's a conflict between environmentalists and agriculturalists because we have farms in the park that are historic 150-year-old farms that certain groups are trying to remove. And so I would just like to talk a minute about the cooperation between environmentalists and agriculturalists and how this is key to a strong local food system. And
Yeah.
so I'm doing some writing about that and trying to form a coalition with environmentalists who are very understanding about the benefits of agriculture to the environment.
Yes, yes. What can we
Mike,
do?
what can we do? I'm gonna recruit you.
Okay.
I don't have my strategy yet, but it's really the time, right? We need to do this. We can't
Yes.
be getting food from China.
No,
We
no.
have to make it here.
Whew.
It's
Well,
gonna be.
yeah. This is something Olive and I have talked about on the show a lot, that you can make a big difference by voting with your food dollar. And the people that want to do away with meat and dairy because of the huge factory production that goes on, and we say, well, no, that's you're right, that's a problem, but there's a different way of doing it, and there are people doing it that way, and you just need to vote with your dollar and know where your food comes from.
Well,
Yes.
we're gonna see that a lot happening. People are gonna start to be much more local, and that's a good thing. The prime, like you were saying, Sue, earlier, we're gonna lose a lot of the artisans, so the offer and the demand are not gonna match at some point. So hopefully, we can have more small artisans stay and find a way to help those people, because without them, there's no economy. Without restaurant, there is no economy. I mean, the restaurant business is the largest employer of the United States, right below the government.
Yes, and all the businesses that have survived from the neighborhood and the services and
It's
all of
insane.
it.
It's crucial. I mean,
It's an interconnected system. The restaurants create traffic in neighborhoods, like you say, so the gift shops can do well, and
and they
the
need
bar,
food. They buy food. They buy lots of
and
food.
all the people that produce the food.
Right.
I like the idea of buying local. I like the idea of local food production. I also like to see a nice balance, because there are foods from other places that I would hate to live without. I would hate to not have access to the great English farmhouse cheeses, for example, and Parmigiano Reggiano and things like that. But I think for the bulk of our diet, we should look to local producers, and
Well, it
I
could
hope
be low. It could also, it could be local producer anywhere. You don't want this mass product stuff. That's all. We all
Yeah,
agree.
and that's what they call local global, right? You want to buy from a community that you understand and that does a great job and makes something delicious,
Have a
but it doesn't.
history.
Yeah, but for your milk and your produce and the things that are really key to your agricultural area, I think it's important to really try to beef those up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is those are the kinds of foods that, to me, are the most important to look for: organically grown, responsibly, sustainably grown and raised foods. I mean, I want my meat and my dairy and my vegetables to be
I want my
something
meat and my.
I want my meat and vegetables. So, Sue, have you just begun this work dealing with the environmental?
I've been on the board of Marin Agricultural Land Trust. I was on that board for 18 years. I'm working with the Sonoma Land Trust and also Point Blue Conservation Science. And those two organizations in our community have a appreciation for the benefits of agriculture, and they're continuing to expand on that as they move forward. It's really a new thing. They're trying to include more communities in the environmental movement. So the ag
Great.
community is key, and I've always been having my hand in it, but I'm very activated right now because of this issue in the park. And I also have more time because I'm only, working as a mentor and an ambassador at Cowgirl Creamery. We sold our company about 4 years ago, and Peggy and I are both still working in it, and giving our wisdom, departing our wisdom on the the leadership, and they're doing a great job. I mean, it's definitely a sincere continuation of our mission.
Well, the company that bought Cowgirl Creamery and Tamales Bay Foods as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is a Swiss company that I happen to know they are all about artisan production. I mean, the way things are made in Switzerland is the way things should probably be made everywhere. It's very focused on the well-being of the animals, the environment, the sustainability, and the quality and the flavor. So
they have patience. Yeah, they have patience.
Yeah.
The quality of product is really about the environment as well. You know, we know that. We were talking one day with James about, you know, the amount of just omega-3, because people are just, you know, one funny question we used to ask in class is, you guys like antioxidants? And everybody's like, yeah. Do you know what they are? No. So it's okay. It's like, you know, yeah. So omega-3, everybody wants them. They don't know what it is. But like, for example, omega-3 I was saying, James, that in the Alps or in the Jura, when the cows eat very high in the mountain, the grass is loaded with omega-3 because the omega-3 is an anti-freeze. That's what it is. So the colder the area, the more omega-3 you're going to see in plants and whatever. And those cows that eat that get more because of those plants. You see, that's interesting. It's really an anti-freeze. So you see a lot of omega-3 in cold fish. So the fat doesn't freeze.
I was just going to ask about that, because in the ocean, the really deep water fish gets pretty cold too, especially from the Atlantic.
That's because of that. They have the structure that alleviate that can be cold. And that's why also you don't clean the same way a fish coming from Alaska that a fish coming from warm waters, because the microbes are different. So they can't stay at the same temperature.
Interesting.
Yes, very.
I wanted to ask one more thing, because we mentioned the small, particularly the farmstead cheesemakers, but the smaller ones that do it on a smaller scale with goats or sheep, sometimes cow. They are the ones that are really struggling right now, because their business is with restaurants, and they can't, like we say, you can't just tell the goats that they can't milk today, because you have to milk them, and you got to do something with that milk, and you don't want to dump it. How are some of them? Are they being creative with how they're dealing with this, or are they giving up, or are they? What do they do? What do you do in that position?
You know, they were already struggling because of the food safety rules. They were having a hard time keeping up. But yeah, I think this will be the nail in the coffin for many. I had another thought, but it left me. I don't know. I don't know what to do. You know, we're just trying to sell more of their cheese. That's the only thing we could think of to.
Do you do online business, Sue?
Yes.
So that should be pretty growing. I mean, it's either people are still going to eat good food. They're going to eat better food. I'm pretty sure about this now. It might take a while, but people are understanding now that they can't eat crappy food anymore, at least most of the people. And so those products that are, they should grow. So I'm hoping that people, you know.
That was the point I was going to make that left my head. That the cheese that's made by these artisans is expensive. You know, it can be upwards to $30 or $40 a pound. And so the restaurants are paying that because they can just tack it onto the bill. But regular citizens are a little bit shocked by those prices. And the shipping on top of that, if you're a small producer, you don't have any discounts for shipping.
Right.
For Tamales Bay Foods, we've been working with FedEx for 25 years.
Wow.
We get a very good price. They'll come and whenever we want them. They're down the street. But if you're, you know, in Arkansas all by yourself, trying to
Right.
pack up a box, and you have to have a freezer for the ice packs, and you're already charging, $35 a pound. It's a limited audience that's going to go for that.
Right, and they don't have the infrastructure for that, and they don't have the marketing tools for that necessarily. That's going to be tough.
So then,
Now,
what about James? What about collectives like they do for the wine and is it possible to have a collective to distribute cheese all together in one UPS or whatever? I don't know.
well, sure, but like Stu says, if you're out in the middle of Arkansas somewhere and there are no other cheesemakers near you, it's hard to form a collective of one. In the Bay Area, it's a lot easier because it's such a concentration of artisan food makers out here. But in some parts of the country, people are doing some really interesting things, but they're sort of out there in terms of being near other like-minded people. So I've been saying in the restaurant industry, we're going to lose a lot of restaurants, but there'll be a lot of restaurant spaces available. So there are other people that want to do restaurants that may come in after this is over, and the spaces are going to be there. But it's a little different when you're talking about the goat farm goes under. You don't have somebody that's just going to say, well, okay, we'll just let's just become farmers. We lost Sue's audio.
No.
It's because my dog's barking, so.
It's a dog.
I thought Olivia was censoring you, so good. I'm glad to see that.
I thought there was a laughing cow.
She has the strangest cows there in Marin County.
Oh yeah.
So Sue, just a quick note. We should do, to push cheese, we should do some recipes with cheese. I'll do that with you online if you want.
Okay.
I'd love to contribute on that. I have a lot of recipes and I know how to do.
That would be wonderful.
Push cheese. Explain I can talk about some of the good stuff that goes into the cheese. We can make some really cool recipes. How to not destroy the cheese when you cook it, because you don't want to burn it either. But there's a lot of things you can do, right?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Good.
All right. Well,
social media team would be very excited to hear this.
I'm trying to do more and more. We need to have people. We cook for people with cancer. We cook for people with a lot of dietary concern, specifically chronic disease. And when you eat good food, I'm trying to explain to people, it's not that complicated. It's real food that is being touched as little as possible. That's pretty much it. But there's stuff that may, but basically, if you don't know anything about nutrition, don't eat anything with the picture on it. I mean,
can I quote you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Put that on your site.
I know what an apple looks like, and it's round. It's not square, and it's not rectangle. That's no way.
Yeah.
Well, like I always say too, that I look forward to the day when the food that's not organic has to pay for certification and put stickers all over their food, and that the food that's organic will just be considered normal food. And
that is not.
That be something?
I've written before in articles about how there's sustainable, organic, fair trade, on and on and on and on, or as my grandfather would have called it, food.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So you can leave whenever you want. I have a question for you, but you let us know when you're tired of seeing us.
Another question, Chef.
Yes. So I was wondering, when did you start that cheese? Like, how old were you when you started to make cheese or to work in
I was
farm?
already old. I was
okay. Wow.
40.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
But I came from cooking.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say you have a good memory.
No. My business partner Peggy and I both came from restaurant cooking.
Ah, that's right. That's right.
And so it didn't seem like a big jump to go to cheese making. We knew how to work hard and how to, produce things quickly, work fast,
Yeah,
and make
because
something of quality.
we had on our show the our friend from the pig. Which pig was that, James? The
Alberto Solis is raising.
Yeah, this guy started what, 45 or 50? He started late.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that the restaurant industry in the Bay Area has spawned all these artisan food producers, like cook people that come out of the restaurant kitchen and they've become butchers, bakers.
Yep.
So far, I don't know of any candlestick makers, but there are ice cream
Flamethrower.
Yeah, there are. And that seems like a natural progression to me, because if I was a restaurant cook, I don't think I'd want to be on the line my entire life. Certainly not as you get older. So it seems like a natural segue to go into some facet of food production.
Right. But it's not easy. People think it's. I mean,
no,
nothing is easy. Food is very tricky because you never know what to expect, and people change their mood and they become. And all of a sudden, you have no idea why you're not selling that and why you're selling this. It's very weird.
Yeah, and then a pandemic comes along.
Some of the best cheesemakers came from restaurants.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a natural.
Well, Sue, thank you so much for being on the show. We're thrilled. And I'm interested to hear more about your project, and I'd certainly be willing to devote some time to it as well. So recruit us by all means.
Oh, good. I will.
And then recipes. Let's make some cheese recipes. Absolutely. Let's make like 10 awesome, foolproof, whatever. Cool. Let's do that.
Okay.
I see you write it down. That's good.
Regarding your project, if I really have to drive up there and visit the Point Reyes National Seashore again, I'd be willing to do that. So
let's do it.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Sue. That's good to see you again, huh?
And tell Amanda we look forward to seeing her next week.
Next Monday. Great.
I will.
All right.
Bye. Take the rest of the day off.
Yeah. You can go
great.
now. You've cooled off. You can go back to the Memorial Day party. All right. Oh, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah. So we've known this person for.
I've known Sue for.
Thanks, Fred.
25 years at least.
I met her when we first opened Cesar in '98 because we were doing the Melimato, the cheese.
Right. Well, I've known Sue through the American Cheese Society and through other things.
Awesome.
At least since I've lived in Berkeley, and that was 1994. So,
so I came in '98.
Yeah.
So we had cheese, we had the ham. Which one should I have? Which should we have next time? Winemaker.
Well, we'll have to get a winemaker on the show. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Or a
bourbon.
So well, that too. It seems to me that since we're talking about cheese, we should talk about. I think that in this time, people are starting to get very restless being at home all the time. And we've actually started to entertain a little bit with family, doing social distancing parties where people come over and we all gather in the garden. But, like our daughter and her family are at one end of the garden and we're at the other end of the garden, and we put a table with food and drink in the middle. And I think it's a great way to keep one's sanity and to see your loved ones and your friends. And I think a lot of people are starting to do that, as long as you do it in a responsible way. And one of the things I always like to serve is cheese. And so I thought I would give some tips on putting together a cheese plate. We've talked about this before in our old podcast, but I don't think we've really dealt with it since we've been live and in color here. But people love to serve
Yeah,
cheese. I think the biggest problem people make with cheese is they try to do too much.
right. And
And
just I want to
wow,
remind people a little bit quickly, James, that in the old days, while in the medieval times and even before, there's a long period of time where cheese, bread, and nuts were the main food for most people, and especially travelers, because that's the thing they can take around. So this is food that was kind of like fed millions and millions and millions of people. So let's not forget that. Anyway.
yeah. And I still think it's a basic food in my house. But I think a good thing to do when you're entertaining is to do a little cheese assortment. But again, don't go crazy. Don't put out 10 different cheeses, and don't feel like you have to put
Right.
out 10 different cheeses. Keep it simple. Limit it to 3 or 4 cheeses that people can really focus on. And they're not going to overwhelm their palate. And with 3 cheeses or 4 cheeses, you can do what you want to do is do a variety of textures and flavors and even shapes. Do a
And
round
also,
cheese, do a wedge of cheese.
and now there's one more factor that you need to think of is people that are either not lactose intolerance but casein intolerance, protein intolerance, and that's why you want to serve for sure sheep or goat always, because there was always
Right.
people that cannot eat cow, and they will love to have something that they can eat.
I like to do one of each. I usually like to do a cow's milk cheese. Usually the cow's milk is more of an aged, firmer cheese. I like to do some sort of fresh goat cheese, and then sheep's milk cheese. And that's a nice variety because you're going to get very, very different flavors, especially if you're buying artisanal cheeses. And you can have a lot of fun with it. They can be from different countries. They can all be from the Bay Area. I mean, that's the incredible thing about the Bay Area cheese scene is that you can get really good cow, sheep, or goat milk cheeses. You can't say that in every community, but and then liven it up with condiments. We've talked about that before too. Pickles are a great thing. You know what we do? We make pickled raisins. Do raw milk cheese mongers taste better? I don't know. Do they last longer? Possibly.
Yeah, probably.
But like Sue said, you can make really good cheese out of pasteurized
Yeah,
cheesemongers. So
absolutely. No, I was not.
that's what she said.
Uh,
But one of the things we like to do with cheese is we make, and we got the idea from a woman I knew in the industry who was making it from her restaurant and selling them to retailers. Pickled raisins. They're amazing. They're so
right.
good because, of
Oh
course,
yeah.
fruit is great with cheese.
Wow.
Wine is great with cheese,
Yeah.
and pickles are great with cheese. So you combine it all with pickled
Wow.
raisins, and they're amazing. They're just amazing. I would scoop them and put them on top of the cheese on a little
Wow.
cracker. Really, really good.
Yeah,
Also, dried
sweet
fruit,
goes well. Yeah, it's funny, huh?
nuts, like you said, nuts, the natural accompaniment to cheese
Yeah,
and charcuterie.
it's old style
And
food, man.
yeah, and the best thing about it, you can do a nice little dinner party or a cocktail party, and you don't have to do any cooking at all. It's cheese, it's condiments, it's bread, it's opening a bottle of wine. Yes. Well, Lisa, that's why I thought of it. Yeah, gluten-free crackers. Thank goodness you can
And
get good
so,
quality
no,
gluten.
that's the idea. The gluten-free crackers are the nuts. That's the thing. You have a bunch of nuts. Of course, it's not easy to pick up, but gluten-free crackers are great to put that on the bread. You can have also vegetables, nuts. In a lot of time, people just eat the cheese without bread. I mean, I know I love bread with it, but a lot of time they eat without cheese with almonds. It's actually a really good way to eat cheese, is with nuts. It's a fantastic combination.
Also, if I'm eating a lot of cheese, I try to not eat every piece of cheese with a piece of bread because it gets to be a lot of bread. And also, I think it's a good idea, even for people that are not necessarily gluten-free. I think it's always a good idea to have a gluten-free option for people, because you'd be amazed at how many people will go for that because they are trying to avoid gluten. So it's always a good idea. 10 years ago, that wasn't an easy thing to do because the gluten-free crackers out there were terrible. Yeah. They tasted like balsa wood, and they just weren't very good at all. Now there are some really good gluten-free options in crackers. Really amazing stuff. Or in it to bake too. So there you go.
So the cheese plate, you can put a lot of stuff in there. And in France, when we have cheese, it's never right before dinner, though. So it's either hours before, like 2 or 3 hours before, or after. So we could have it before when we don't plan to make food and we just go to someone's house and we have an aperitif. So we have charcuterie, ham, pâté, some cheese, and that's it. That's our dinner. We don't
maybe a little salad.
Yeah, but we don't add food on top of it. So a lot of time we're going to eat that. And it's like the tapas in Spain or the antipasti. It's kind of the idea. It's kind of eating a little bit while you see your friends and you drink all the wine.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of dinner parties where they put out a big cheese platter before dinner and sliced bread and crackers. And you know, everybody's really hungry, of course, and they're all drinking wine. So they just attack the cheese platter. And then no one's hungry for dinner. I mean, they're halfway through dinner, the plates are still full and nobody's eating. And I think, what a waste. I mean, I think cheese is best for a cocktail party, or like you said, kind of like tapas.
It's good. It's good anytime. It's good for snacks. It's good for snacks. So the cheese, the thing is, it's really, really good. It's kind of, you know, it takes a long time to digest. So I would not, just a personal opinion, I would not eat cheese too late at night. That's all. So I would keep it kind of on the early side because it takes a little while to digest. But other than that, it's a fantastic food.
I do like the tradition of having a cheese for dessert, though, in France. I think that's a wonderful thing. Sometimes I'm too full to do it, but I enjoy it. A lot of times when I used to go to Paris a lot on business when I was with the magazines, and pretty much every year, and we would go to very, very nice restaurants, and
like
often
yeah.
And a lot of times I would not have dessert, even though, of course, everybody wants to have dessert in Paris because they're so good. But I would go for the cheese because I could have these cheeses that I can't get here. The beautiful raw milk goat cheeses, the authentic camembert, things like this, some of the washed rind cheeses that are illegal here. And I would have great fun eating those after dinner because to me, that's special. You can get great pastry here. Let's face it.
In order to do that, James, you have to sit long enough at the table. You can't just finish your meal and just grab the cheese because it's too much. It's like you can't fit it in. So you need to wait. You need to sit at the table, you know, discuss, drink more.
Yeah. And that's the great thing about having dinner in Paris is that they're not trying to rush you out of there. They expect you're going to be there.
Sometimes they do, but yeah, most of the time.
Well, and it's changing, of course, but the really, really great restaurants, they expect you to be there for 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay.
It's not for you?
Not this time.
If they get out of the truck and they're all wearing white coats, you better run.
I should get a white coat too.
Yeah. So let me just say one more thing about putting a cheese plate together.
Sorry, man.
How much cheese you
buy.
Right. Typically, if you're doing a cocktail party and you know, your dinner's going to be later on, people are going to leave and go off and have dinner, you got to figure 2 to 3 ounces of cheese per person is a good way to figure out how much to buy. If it's a part of a big buffet table at a party, and there's tons of other stuff, there's, you know, meats and ham and charcuterie and pate, all that stuff, maybe an ounce per person is plenty because there's just too much other stuff to eat. If it's a cheese plate that is dinner, if this is what you're having for dinner, then maybe figure a little more, maybe 4 ounces a person. But a good average is about 2 ounces per person.
James, what is 2
And to
ounces?
figure out how much
Oh, sorry. That was my question. What is 2 ounces?
2 ounces, it's a pretty good size piece of cheese. I mean, it's I wish I had a 2 ounce piece here to show you, but it's a lot of cheese. It's a 2 to 4 ounces of cheese is a good amount of cheese for one person to eat.
Yeah.
And
So
you're going to eat it in smaller pieces too. It's going to be little slices, little cubes. So,
and sometimes with a lot of bread.
and also it's an average. So you got to figure they're going to be some people at the party that are just going to attack the cheese plate and eat. They're going to eat 6 or 7 ounces of cheese, and then there's going to be somebody else that's hardly going to eat any at all.
Right.
So it's an average. So you just take the number of ounces you want to figure per person, you multiply it by the number of people you expect, and then you divide that by 6, and you come up with how many pounds of cheese to buy.
So 1 pound
it's as
is
simple
about
as that.
1 pound is 16 ounces, right?
Right. That's why you divide by 16.
Right.
So if it's 2 ounces for 24 people, that's 48 divided by 16 is 3 pounds of cheese. Great. And if you're going to get 3 pounds of cheese, get a pound of each. Get a pound of a hard cheese, a pound of a bloomy rind cheese, and a pound of a nice soft.
Because they won't go bad. I mean, they'll go bad eventually, but you have time.
Yeah.
So you can always
go bad.
Right. They are,
eat them for the next day.
James, they're not going to go bad. They're already bad.
That's right.
That's true.
Well, and food like that in my house, we eat it. We just eat it up. It's gonna get consumed. So even if it's left over from the party, which is probably a good thing. You don't want to run out of food.
One of the time also someone was asking me, he's like, as a French guy, don't you like when the cheese stinks? And I said, to a point, it depends what it stinks. For example, I really don't like when the cheese smells like ammonia. When the cheese smells like ammonia, it went too far. This is when the cheese gets bad. That yellow ammonia strong flavor. You want to shave that. And actually, James, did we show that on the podcast? We need to show that next time, how to shave the cheese. Yeah. So basically, you shave your cheese. That means it's called facing the cheese. It's removing all the bad part, because it's only mold at the surface that is not really bad for you, except ammonia could be a problem. Not that you're going to die of it. You might have a tummy ache, but like that foam is just more bacteria, which is beneficial. But some people have a hard time with that, so you can remove that. But you have to remove the yellow part. That's what I like to remove. Not on the cheddar. Not on the cheddar.
Well, if it's a wheel of cheese that's been cut for some time, it's a good idea to face it, and you do it with a cheese plane. So you're taking off like a paper thin slice of cheese, just because it gets dry. Yeah. And it's not as pleasant. It's perfectly fine to eat, but it's not as
pretty.
good.
And it's not pretty.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and when a cheese smells like ammonia, it means that it's not been aged properly. It's not been stored properly. It's probably been either because it was too humid or it got too warm or something. But it means that the bacteria in there have just sort of gone crazy.
I think they died. I think the bacteria died with ammonia. That's what I think. So ammonia is not a good thing.
We should have asked Sue. She would have been able to tell us probably the science behind it. But
you think?
So yeah. So you know me. I think cheese is the best thing to serve at a party, along with charcuterie. Cheese and charcuterie. You almost don't need anything else. Cheese and charcuterie and a little salad and some pickles.
So let's talk about. We have 5 more minutes to talk about maybe cooking cheese.
Yeah. Okay. Cheese is also fabulous to cook with.
Right.
Some are better than others, of course.
Right.
When you melt cheese, it's a good idea to grate it first, because then it melts more evenly. And sometimes you want to put a little bit of starch in it to keep it from turning into, You also want to put a little acid in the form of wine or acid. You want to put a little acid in when you're cooking cheese.
Like the fondue, right?
fondue, you always add wine, sometimes a little kirsch.
So this is what I do with my cheese that a bunch of extra cheese that are left over. Actually, Chef Kevin does that. We take all the cheese left over, could be whatever it is, put that in the blender, and make a cheese ball.
Yeah.
What I do
And
with
you
that
just,
cheese ball, when there's too much cheese ball and there's people are not going to eat it, I put it into a pan and I add about 1/3 of wine. I melt it and I eat that with the bread.
yeah, it's great.
It's
Fromage
very great.
fort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can also you can even put a little garlic in there if you want to. You can put in
You can put booze.
a
You can put
spirit,
kirsch. You can put a little. You can put some.
little
So
guava.
I do a class. It's called Cooking with Alcohol. There's a lot of cheese course in there, and the cognac I marinate in cognac. It's really fun, and the goat cheese I marinate in vodka and gin, a really flavorful gin. It's so pretty. You have these hints of stuff. It's really cool. Alcohol works well with cheese. So
Well, I always cook.
sipping a good.
I cook with alcohol too, but I never thought of actually putting it in the food. I'll have to try that next time.
Right. So,
I usually just in me.
yeah, right. So the alcohol, you can drink a little alcohol, like a Calvados, a little pear, those super awesome, a little Calva, a little grappa to eat your cheese. It's
Mm-hmm.
really cool. You don't drink a lot, huh? It's a little bit. It's because it's very strong flavor, but that's one really good idea. And also, I really want to follow up. I'm sorry, James. I want to follow up with Sue. I really want to create some cheese recipes. That should be cool to do that for them.
Well, she's a great one to talk to because she is a cook. She is a chef.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
the Cowgirl Creamery cookbook is a wonderful book. It's full of recipes from appetizers to desserts made with cheese.
Yeah.
But I was
So
also just want to point out one more thing, a little shout out to our brewing brothers out there, is that beer is also a fabulous beverage with cheese.
let's
In fact,
get
when
some.
you're eating like a soft drink, you drink beer, it just explodes in your mouth. The bubbles
Oh
really
yeah,
bring those
I
flavors
love
out.
beer. I love beer
It's a
in
wonderful
cheese.
beer, is wonderful
So
cheese.
James, let's get a beer.
I mean,
Let's get a beer monger next week.
oh, I thought you were going to just say, let's get a beer. I'm going to get a beer as soon as the podcast is open. I have
I put
some
my beer
Guinness upstairs.
in my coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, beer, wine. You know, the only beverage that's really not very good with cheese is water.
Oh yeah,
I hate it, but water
it's
is
true, huh?
really not. And if you
What is?
have to water, acidify it, put some lemon in it, because just plain water with cheese, it just doesn't work. It's I love water. It's my second favorite beverage, but it doesn't go with cheese. So, like I said, just acidify the water. And sometimes when I don't want to drink alcohol, that's what I do. I get a nice glass of water and I squeeze a lemon into it, and that's all you need. And it's delicious. But it's got enough acid to cut that fat of the cheese. Otherwise, it just doesn't. It doesn't mix and it doesn't cut it, and then it's not good.
You can put a drop of apple cider vinegar in there also. That works very well.
That also, yeah, that's great too. But that's why wine and beer and spirits, that's why they all work so well with cheese, because of the acid, and it cuts through that fat of the cheese. I like to cut through the fat, you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I think more politicians.
It is true. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're big fans of cheese here at Quarantine on Fire.
So we need to get a beer monger and a wine maker. So maybe next Monday we'll do a beer.
Next Monday we're going to have Amanda from Cowgirl Creamery. She is the new director of the company, and she's going to talk more about the retail side, because I'm very interested to see what's going on there. Because the whole, even though grocery stores are still open, their businesses have been kind of turned upside down. I mean, they're having to operate much differently. People are shopping differently. And, you know, people talk about the nurses and all these other people that are on the front line in this pandemic, and they certainly are. But I also think that the people that work in grocery stores need all
Oh
these
yeah,
things.
no, everybody that's yeah, everybody that's been serving the public is phenomenal. I mean, we're working. We have a few chefs working. We make food. I do cooking classes online. We have a food delivery that we make. It's not really profitable, to make food. Well, this is not what we do. We're not set up for it, but we are doing it. We have to keep our sanity. We have to keep working, see what's going to happen. And we are starting a bunch of cooking classes online, live. I got a whole setup that was very complicated to set up, actually. But I got all my setup done, and I'm ready to go to do some really cool classes and actually fun. So
Beautiful. Well,
thank
listen,
you, man.
thank you
James,
everyone for joining us today. Please
awesome.
have a safe and fun Memorial Day weekend, what's left of it. I am going to go celebrate Memorial Day in a moment here with a tall glass of Guinness.
Did you say in Vermont here or in Normandy?
In Normandy. I'm going to Normandy as soon as the podcast is over.
Okay,
Oh,
guys.
in Normandy.
Happy weekend.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye.
you.